It's 2 in the morning at a nursing home in Providence, Rhode Island. A nurse is making her rounds. As she steps onto the 3rd floor, she sees a small gray and white cat curled at the foot of bed 313. She doesn't check the chart. She doesn't check the monitor. She picks up the phone and calls the family. Come now. By morning, the patient is gone. The cat was right again. The cat's name was Oscar. Over a decade in that nursing home, he correctly predicted more than 50 patient deaths, sometimes hours before any nurse, any doctor, any machine. The staff stopped second-guessing him. Families learned to dread the sight of him at the door. What does a cat know that a cardiac monitor doesn't? Why does your dog start sleeping under the bed of someone who isn't sick yet? And what exactly are pets reading in us right before the end? We tend to think of death as the moment the heart stops. But the body doesn't decide that all at once. What if dying is a process that begins hours, days, sometimes weeks earlier, and your pet has been reading it the whole time? What if your body, in those final stretches, is leaking a signal you can't smell? What if every cell that gives up releases a chemical postcard into the air around you? What if the reason your dog won't leave the bed isn't loyalty, but information? And what if the most accurate death detector in the room isn't the machine on the wall, but the animal on the floor? By 2007, the staff at the Schillerhöhe Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Providence had a problem they didn't know how to write down. A geriatrician named David Dosa from Brown University finally did it for them. The cat, Oscar, had been adopted as a kitten and given the run of the dementia ward. He was, by all accounts, not especially friendly. He ignored most patients. He hissed at the rest. But every few weeks, Oscar would walk into a specific room, jump onto a specific bed, curl up next to a specific patient, and refuse to move. Within hours, that patient would die. Every time. The staff began keeping count. By the time Dosa wrote it up for the New England Journal of Medicine, Oscar had been right 25 times in a row, and the number kept climbing. He eventually crossed 50. Some predictions came earlier than the doctor's own. In one case, the nurses placed Oscar on what they believed was the dying patient's bed. He jumped off. He walked down the hall. He lay down on a different patient entirely. The first patient lived another 2 days. The second one died that night. Oscar was not learning from the staff. The staff were learning from Oscar. He wasn't anyone's pet, exactly. He was every patient's pet, for one night. And the cat sleeping on your couch right now has the same instrument in its skull. So, what was Oscar smelling? When human cells run out of oxygen, they don't just stop. They break apart, and as they break apart, they release a cocktail of volatile organic compounds, molecules so small they evaporate the moment they leave the body. Acetone, hydrocarbons, the chemistry of shutdown, beginning before death. Your skin gives off a different scent. Your breath shifts. In the very last hours, there is sometimes a faint, sweet smell, the way an overripe apple smells, as the liver lets go and ketones flood the breath. You can't smell it. A cat can. Dogs can smell more than that. A dog's nose contains around 300 million olfactory receptors. Yours has 6 million. Inside their skull, the wiring devoted to smell is so much larger than yours, it barely belongs to the same organ. In 2006, a team at the Pine Street Foundation in California trained ordinary household dogs, pets, not bloodhounds, to identify lung and breast cancer from a sealed breath sample. They got it right up to 97% of the time. They can flag colorectal cancer from a single stool sample. They can sense a diabetic owner's blood sugar crashing before the owner feels it. If a dog can smell a tumor through a sealed test tube, what do you think it can smell when its person is dying in the next room? In 2011, researchers at the Schillerhöhe Hospital in Germany trained 4 dogs to identify lung cancer patients by breath alone. The dogs got it right 71% of the time, better than the standard biomarker blood tests doctors were using at the time. The dogs were not smelling the tumor itself. They were smelling the chemistry of a body losing a fight with one. And it isn't only cancer. There are dogs trained to alert their owners before an epileptic seizure, sometimes a full 20 minutes in advance. There are dogs that paw at a person's chest minutes before a stroke. The mechanism is the same. A body about to fail leaks a chemical signature. A nose, finely tuned to that body, picks it up before the body itself knows. A dying body is just the longest, slowest version of the same signal. It does not arrive in an instant. It builds, for hours, sometimes for weeks. But here is where it gets stranger. Hospice nurses, the people who sit with the dying for a living, have known about this for decades. Cats who never approached a patient suddenly will not leave the bed. Dogs who slept downstairs come up and lie on the floor of the bedroom. Birds go quiet. Horses press their heads against the stall door of a stablemate who will not recover. Every species seems to have its own gesture for the same recognition. Some sit close. Some pull away. All of them know. Hospice workers tell a version of the same story almost every week. A border collie who had slept in the kitchen for 12 years. An elderly man in the bedroom upstairs. In the man's last week, the dog stopped eating. He stopped barking. He lay across the threshold of the bedroom door, never crossing it, never leaving it. The man died on a Tuesday. The dog had been holding that position since the previous Wednesday. Or take the horses. In hospice barns across the United Kingdom, end-of-life patients are sometimes brought out to spend their final days near the animals they raised. Stable hands report a consistent pattern. Horses who normally crowd the fence for attention walk over once, sniff carefully, and then stand very still, heads lowered, ears soft. They hold that posture for hours. The patients rarely make it through the week. Even rabbits seem to know. Even chickens. There are documented cases of pet pigs refusing food in the days before an owner's death, and parrots that fall silent for the first time in years. The signal is not subtle, once you know what to look for. It is just that we have spent most of human history looking the other way. So why do some pets do this and not others? The best guess from animal cognition researchers is that 2 ingredients have to be present. 1, a nose, or set of senses, sharp enough to pick up the chemical shift. 2, a bond long enough to know what their human normally smells like. Oscar had spent every day of his life in that ward. He knew the baseline scent of every patient. The change wasn't a smell to him. It was a contrast. Your pet has been calibrating its instrument on you every day for years. And in the final week, the reading goes wrong. He noticed, we didn't. So if you are ever lucky enough, or unlucky enough, to be at the bedside of someone you love at the end, watch the animals in the house. Watch where the cat sits. Watch where the dog lies down. Watch the way the canary stops singing. They aren't being sentimental. They aren't picking up on vibes. They are reading the chemistry of a body letting go in a language we evolved out of millions of years ago and forgot. Death has a smell. We don't smell it anymore. They never stopped. We forgot. They remembered. And when the time comes, they will sit with us anyway. Because for whatever they are, in whatever way they understand the world, they have decided this is the place to be. Maybe they don't know what death is. Maybe they are only smelling acetone, but knowing in the end might be exactly that. A body detects a pattern. A body refuses to leave. They know when, and they stay.